Start your career off right with the Powerpuff Girls.
Hi, I'm Kelsey.
I'm Maddie.
And I'm Madeline. And we will be talking about CMU logistics students and what they look for when starting their career.
From our analysis, we found that logistics students want a $60,000 salary and to fit with culture. And they also find advancement opportunity and company atmosphere to be important.
More than half of CMU students think there's room for improvement, mostly improving meaningful work and compensation. Atmosphere is important to all, but it's a major weakness.
Today on the agenda, we are going to talk about our objectives, our research methods, the results that we found, and then we are going to sum it all up at the end.
There are many objectives we will be looking at throughout this project based on the research we obtained. Starting off with the conjoint analysis, we're going to look at how customers make choices, or in this case, we are referring to CMU students, and what attributes are most important to them and the preference levels within each attribute.
Next will be max diff analysis. What is most and least important to the students while looking for an internship versus a full-time job. Finally, we will look at CX analysis. We will be looking at what is most important to students and their experiences. We will also talk about how companies are performing on these attributes students value so much, and where we can improve in these areas.
Our focus was on marketing and logistics students. 94 students took the survey in the spring of 2017.
The data collected was through multiple surveys online. Extra credit was awarded to quality completed surveys.
We had some limitations, including survey fatigue. Because there were so many surveys that needed to be taken, the quality of surveys could have gone down because of the fatigue.
There was also no comparative data, other than Western Michigan University, who we only mention a little bit about. We do not use an industry perspective at all. Other than our limitations, we are very confident in our data.
Alright, let's jump into our data. First, we're going to analyze the sample. From our data, we discovered that 42.6% of our subjects were female, and 57.4% of our subjects were male.
When we asked if they had prior internship experience, 78.7% said yes, while 21.3% said no.
94 total students took our survey. Out of the 94 students who took our survey, 57.4% of them were logistics majors, but only 36.2% planned on getting a job in logistics. This is due to the high number of students double majoring in marketing and logistics or some other major.
So what's choice? Choice looks at attribute importance. These attributes share 100 points. Attributes with higher points mean it's more important to students. From this, we can find preference levels within certain attributes. The average preference level is 0. Anything below is a negative, anything above 0 is positive. When looking at the choice data, we focused on 6 different attributes and scored their importance to students. The attributes we looked at include starting salary, personality fit with the company, the travel distance, location of the firm, type of firm, and the work environment. The highest scoring attributes were starting salary and personality fit, making these the 2 most important attributes to CMU students. CMU should focus on finding students careers that are a good personality fit and include high starting salary.
Now we are going to look deeper into the specific preference levels of each attribute. The first one we will look at is the most important attribute, which is starting salary. The starting salary that got the lowest preference score was $40,000, while $60,000 got the highest preference score. This means the starting salary preferred most by students is $60,000. From that information, CMU should focus on helping students find career choices with higher starting salaries.
We asked students if they wanted their career culture to fit their personality, and the results were a hard yes. Students want to fit in when working for a company, so CMU should focus on helping students find career choices that match their personality.
We asked students how far they would be willing to travel for a career. Students prefer to be as close to the work location as possible. CMU should focus on finding career choices that cater to the location of the student.
When asked about the location of their career choice, students preferred the suburbs compared to a big city or rural area. With this information, CMU should focus on helping students find career choices in a suburban area.
When asked about the type of firm they would like to work for, we found that students would rather work for a 3PL or a transportation carrier rather than a manufacturer, retailer, or wholesaler. So CMU should focus on helping students find career choices with 3PLs or transportation carrier firms.
When asked about the preferred work environment for their career choice, students would rather be in an office setting rather than being on the road for their career. Although a plant environment scored an average preference, meaning students are indifferent about working in that type of environment, CMU should focus on helping students find career choices in an office setting. What's max diff? This kind of analysis is comparing two different situations. In this case, we are talking about full-time jobs and internships. Attribute importance is the same in max diff as it is in choice. The attributes share 100 points. More points mean more importance.
First, we're going to look at the internship attribute importance. We split the data into two graphs, one of higher importance and one of lower importance. But all attributes in both graphs add up to 100 points. Atmosphere of the firm, room for advancement, and personality fit had the highest importance scores, meaning students believe these attributes are highly important when having an internship.
Based on this information, CMU should help students find internships that have an all-around good culture and give them room for advancement.
The lower scoring attributes were size of the firm and dress code of the company, meaning the students find these attributes not important when having an internship.
With this information, CMU should not be helping students find internships based on the size of the firm or the dress code.
Now we are going to look at attribute importance when looking for a full-time position. Again, we are splitting the data into two graphs. Room for advancement and atmosphere had the highest importance scores, meaning this is important to students when having a full-time job.
With this information, CMU should be helping find students full-time positions that give them room for advancement and have a good atmosphere. Here are the lower scoring attributes for the full-time positions.
Size of firm, social activities after work, and dress code all had an importance score of 0, meaning CMU students do not find these attributes important when having a full-time job. With this information, CMU should not be focusing on finding students full-time positions based on the firm size, dress code, or social activities after work.
Now we are going to compare the importance of higher scoring attributes when looking for internships versus full-time jobs. Alignment with major, room for advancement, and compensation all have the most significant differences when comparing important scores of full-time jobs and internships. The data shows when looking for an internship, students believe the alignment with major is significantly more important, while compared to looking for a full-time position where compensation and room for advancement were significantly more important. CMU should focus on the attribute alignment with major more when helping students find internships, but if the student is looking for a full-time position, CMU should focus on finding firms with good compensation and room for advancement. So, what's CX? The correlation we will be focusing on is attributes versus NPS scores. CX looks at correlation, and this correlation ranges from -1 to 1. The closer the correlation is to -1 or 1, the more the attribute drives the NPS score.
The NPS score shows how a company is compared to another company or an industry. The NPS score can be calculated by taking the percent of detractors and minusing that from the percent of promoters. We look at the scale of rating, which goes from 0 to 10. The rating from 0 to 6 are called the detractors, 7 to 8 are called the passives, and 9 to 10 are called the promoters. NPS scores range from -100 to 100. With the previous NPS score calculation, CMU ended up with an NPS score of 15.7. We got this number by doing 46.9 minus 31.2.
So we first looked at CX performance. CX performance looks at the importance score of relative performance to a best competitor. We chose our best competitor to be WMU, also known as Western Michigan University.
We first looked at Central's NPS score compared to Western's NPS score. CMU had an NPS score of 15.7, while Western had an NPS score of 6. According to our results, CMU is performing well compared to Western. CMU has a better NPS score than Western, but they have room for opportunity.
Now, let's look at CMU compared to Western and Apple. While Central has an NPS score of 15.7, Apple has an NPS score of 70. Comparing to Apple, CMU has a really low NPS score. CMU could improve comparing to Apple, which is a Fortune 500 company. Although their NPS score is low compared to Apple, they are still doing better than Western.
We then asked students how well CMU performs at certain attributes. Relationship with supervisor, reputation of the firm, and personality fit got the highest performance scores. According to the previous graph, since CMU is performing better at these attributes than the other attributes, they should continue to keep performing well at these attributes to keep students satisfied.
We then analyzed what attributes students thought CMU performed the worst on. The attributes that CMU performed worst on were the onboarding process and stress level. We concluded from our last graph that CMU should not focus on the onboarding process and stress level when finding full-time jobs and internships for students, since these attributes were poorly rated.
We then compared how CMU students think CMU performs on certain attributes, compared to how Western students think Western performs on the same attributes. The biggest differences are with the attributes stress level, the onboarding process, and the variety of work. According to the last graph, CMU should focus on finding full-time jobs or internships that have a low stress level and that have a smooth onboarding process. We need to fix these attributes for CMU because they have a low performance score comparing to Western.
For CX performance, we also looked at the performance ratio. Performance ratio is our attribute performance divided by their attribute performance, which in this case is Western. When we do that division, 0.97 to 1.03 is the zone of indifference. This means that these are tied with Western's attributes. Anything above 1.03 is a significant advantage, while below 0.97 is a significant disadvantage. We then looked at CMU's performance ratio. CMU is significantly performing worse than Western when comparing the dress code, the onboarding process, and the level of stress.
According to the last graph, when CMU is looking for full-time jobs or internships for students, they should improve the dress code, the onboarding process, and the stress level of the job.
We then looked at CX importance. CX importance uses correlation values with NPS. The ranges for correlation are from -1 to 1. The higher the score, the higher the importance.
When looking at which attributes are most important to CMU students, reputation got the highest rating. Meaningful work and personality fit were also pretty important to students. On the other hand, stress level was not very important to students.
So for our next graph, we wanted to show our previous data on a bar chart to get a better look at our data. Once again, according to CMU students, the reputation of the firm, meaningful work, and personality fit are important to students.
According to these results, CMU should focus on finding full-time jobs or internships for students that have a good reputation, meaningful work, and that have a good personality fit, since CMU students think these attributes are important.
Now we will be looking at attributes that are not important according to students when they look for a full-time job or internship. Stress level got the lowest importance score comparing to all the other attributes. Based on the graph's previous results, CMU should not have to focus on finding full-time jobs or internships that have a low stress level.
We then asked students if CMU needs to improve overall when finding full-time jobs and internships for students. After we asked students what specific attributes they need to improve on, and we analyzed those results with the derived and stated opportunity results. So, does CMU need to improve? We first asked students if CMU needs to improve when finding full-time jobs or internships for students. 59.4% of students think CMU needs to improve, while 40.6% students think they do not. We see from these results, CMU obviously overall needs to improve.
For the stated improvement opportunities, we asked customers to rate which attributes they wish to improve. In this case, we are talking about the attributes related to CMU students' career choices. The data range was from 0% to 100%. We then asked students which attributes need to be improved when CMU looks for full-time jobs or internships for students. Meaningful work and compensation got the highest stated opportunity percentage compared to other attributes.
Since meaningful work and having the right compensation have the highest percentage, this means that when CMU looks for full-time jobs or internships for students, They should focus on finding jobs that have meaningful work and the right compensation.
For the stated performance importance analysis, we compared the performance ratio versus the attribute performance score. The zone of indifference was from 0.97 to 1.03, and the attributes within this zone are tied with Western.
The four quadrants within the stated performance importance analysis graph are the major weaknesses, minor weaknesses, major strengths, and minor strengths. Atmosphere of the firm looks to be in the major weaknesses quadrant, while social activities after work is in the minor weaknesses quadrant.
Since the atmosphere attribute is in the major weaknesses quadrant, CMU should focus on improving the atmosphere of the firm when CMU finds a full-time job or internship for students. Since social activities after work are in the major weaknesses quadrant, CMU should focus on this attribute also.
Now we are going to do an overview of all of our results. Conjoint analysis told us companies hiring CMU logistics students should focus on a starting salary of $60,000, creating a good company culture, being close to the student's residency, preferably in a suburban area. The student prefers a 3PL company to work for, and to work in an office setting.
So now, to sum up MaxDiff told us when CMU students look for jobs that are internships or full-time, companies should focus on their company's atmosphere and opportunities for advancement. So to sum up CX told us that CMU has opportunity to improve. They can work on meaningful work and compensation when finding full-time jobs or internships for students. They also could improve finding jobs or internships for students that have social activities after work and that have a good atmosphere.
The Powerpuff Girls thank you!